Hello, my name is Kimberly, and this is my channel, The Amazing Kimmeth, and today we are going over Grim Begins by Wiktor Mięsok. Before I begin, I want to let you know that these guys have their own channel. I do have links in the description below where you can find this book and find the channel. This book begins with Andre, who is a border guard in East Berlin. This is set in the 80s, so we are dealing with the communist era. The guards are in pairs, and Andre's guard partner, he ends up defecting to West Berlin. Andre is then ordered to shoot this other guard. Andre, he is then interrogated for being part of a plan to possibly desert. And Andre's butt is saved that his father is a major who's Stasi. Andre and his father, they end up going home. Andre is dropped off and his father then goes and does whatever. Andre and his mother, they then prep for Easter because it is Easter weekend. Andre's father comes home very drunk. Andre and his father have a spat. Then the father kicks Andre out of the house. Andre then goes to sleep on a friend's couch for a few days. And the father makes it clear that the son, in order to return home, he needs to become a full socialist, study law, get into politics, that sort of thing. And Andre is dead set against it. Andre goes to church with his mother, and his faith in God and the church is renewed. And this ends up helping Andre a lot in the future. Andre has been kicked out of his father's house, but he still wants to have contact with his mother. He ends up meeting with this guy, Zaya, and this guy is obviously dealing with contraband trade. And after sleeping on a couch for a few days, Andre tries to go and see his mother, and he needs to get his passport photo because he's just trying to get out of all of this. He's not a fan of the situation, and he's just trying to see what his options are. Andre's mother does pass away. Andre is there to call the ambulance and have them come and get her, and dealing with the issue of her being in the hospital and passing away. He goes and talks to his father. His father cries, but his father is at a high-end restaurant with some promiscuous women drinking champagne, eating caviar, that sort of thing, and Andre is absolutely disgusted. At the funeral for Andre's mother, his father is like, oh, son, you can come back, but remember, you do have to go to college, you do have to get into politics, you do have to be part of this whole government sphere. Andre wants nothing to do with it. The Stasi, the secret police, are following Andre. Andre's friend, whose couch he's been sleeping on for a few days, is like, dude, I can't have you here. This is going to affect my ability to get work. You gotta go. So then Andre finds Zaya, and this completely takes a new turn. Andre immediately throws himself into a life of criminal activity. Andre and Zaya rob a restaurant, and then Zaya takes Andre to a place where he can get a new passport, but this means a completely new identity, and Andre has to remember that he is no longer Andre. Zaya and Andre are now crossing borders, trying to go further and further into communist territory. Their goal is to get into Russia. At one point, the van of contraband that Zaya and Andre have, they get stopped, and they find not just contraband, but they find narcotics. They find heroin, and Andre is absolutely livid. Zaya and Andre are arrested, they're interrogated, they're tortured, and this is all done separately, so they don't know what the other one is saying. However, Andre never rats, he never snitches, he never says anything about Zaya or anything that would get Zaya into more trouble than he already is. Andre, while in the holding cells with other inmates, he meets a man, Yevgeny, and Yevgeny kind of helps keep the peace. He kind of explains some things to Andre and what Andre can expect in the prison system, and then kind of asks him what's going on. Andre insists that he wasn't a rat, he isn't a snitch, he didn't say anything that would put his partner in crime in any more trouble, and then it kind of goes from there. Cops end up giving Yevgeny an envelope which describes in detail what the interrogation and the torture process was like for Andre, what he did and didn't say, and Yevgeny announces it to all the inmates in there, but this does help solidify that Andre is not a snitch, and this gives him some respect within the criminal realm. Andre ends up going to court and he's sentenced to 12 years in prison, and not just prison, but he's sent to a penal colony in Siberia, and for some folks this ends up becoming a death sentence. We then follow Andre as he goes to prison. He slowly shifts and adjusts to life in there. We learn about the hierarchy and the different gangs within the Russian prison system. Andre makes it very clear from the get-go that he doesn't want to be in any gangs, he doesn't want to be in any extra little group or faction, and he's trying his darndest to do this alone and make it alone, but still being on good terms with folks without succumbing to any of the grueling, disgusting bits and the lower hierarchy folks that are within this prison system. Andre tries to be as polite as possible, and Zaya is there. He's making some moves and doing some things, and he does pull some favors and he does help out Andre. However, he does some dishonorable things that Andre just cannot forgive. Through some naive but some well-meaning acts, things kind of spiral out of control for Andre, and he's faced with a very terrible ultimatum. And that's kind of where the story ends. There's some extras in there that, of course, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but we see where Andre, just one thing after another, he's trying to do his best, and he does make some terrible mistakes, but he's trying to maintain his honor the whole time. But these mistakes just lead him to something he doesn't want to be, he doesn't want to do, but he's going to have to make a terrible decision one way or the other. One cool thing with this book is throughout it, there are some rules for life that the character comes up with, and he kind of gives them as just like, here, bullet point, boop, boop, boop. This is what I do. This is how I live now. These are things that I want to pass on to you as well. And I think that's really cool having that within this book. This book is very introspective. It does give a lot of not just the story, but how the character obviously is now older, retelling the story and going kind of, oh God, if I only knew, oh, I should have done this, or with being so young, I made these mistakes. And I really did like how it was that story being told. One thing that I didn't like about this book is that the foreshadowing was very heavy-handed. Let me read just a sentence or two to give you an example. Little did I know that in the not-too-distant future, I would remember those couple of days in a Stasi prison as nothing worse than a walk in the park. That's on page 21. I wonder what they deal with later on in the book. This isn't necessarily a dislike, it's just something that I found humorous, how they transliterated some of the Russian words like horror show. I can only imagine an American, probably in the deep South, pronouncing this as like harshu, but to put on a thicker Russian accent is harsho. But I just thought that was kind of interesting. They do have Russian words speckled throughout this book, and they do explain what they mean, and I did enjoy that. It does show what these terms mean in the Russian prison system and within the criminal system, and just how folks view these words. This is a really good book. I do recommend it. It was short. It was slightly over 200 pages. However, I did enjoy it. As you can tell, I did mark some pages for me to go over myself, and just different rules that it had in here of how to apply oneself, what to do in life, that sort of thing. Like I said, this was a great book. I do recommend giving it a read. But have you read this book? What did you think about it? And what should I read next?